Most Harley owners are leaving money and reliability on the table without realizing it. Some of the simplest maintenance tricks can prevent repairs that cost thousands of dollars, yet they are rarely mentioned during routine service visits. In this countdown, you will discover 15 practical Harley hacks that can extend your bike's life, improve performance, and help you avoid expensive mistakes before they happen. Hack number 15. Anti-seize on your axle nut and pinch bolts. Picture this. It's tire change day and you're finally ready to swap that worn rear tire. You crack the axle nut and it doesn't budge. You add a cheater bar, you're sweating, and you're one slip away from rounding it off completely. Most riders just assume this is normal Harley stubbornness. But here's what most owners miss. That axle nut wasn't seized because it was tightened too much. It's seized because steel and aluminum corroded together over years of road salt, rain, and heat cycles. Here's the deal. Every time you or your mechanic removes the rear axle nut, front axle pinch bolts, or caliper bolts, coat the threads in a nickel or copper-based anti-seize compound before reinstalling. It doesn't loosen the torque spec, it just stops galvanic corrosion from welding the metals together. Dealerships skip this step constantly because it takes an extra 30 seconds they don't bill for. A small tube of anti-seize costs about $8 and lasts years. A shop having to drill out or cut off a seized axle nut, $150 to $400 depending on what gets damaged getting it out. That's a massive difference for one extra squeeze of paste. But if that one just surprised you, wait until you hear how a felt tip marker can save you from a bolt falling out at 70 miles an hour. And this next one explains everything. Hack number 14. Witness mark your vibration-prone bolts. You're riding home on the highway and you notice your highway peg is looser than last week. Or your mirror's drooping again. Harleys are famous for one specific problem nobody warns new owners about. The V-twin engine vibrates hard enough to walk fasteners loose over time, especially on floorboards, exhaust clamps, and mirror stems. Most riders don't catch it until something's already rattling or falling off. But here's what most owners overlook. Master mechanics use a trick borrowed from aircraft maintenance. Here's the deal. After torquing a critical bolt to spec, draw a single straight line across the bolt head and onto the surrounding metal with a paint pen or nail polish. If that line ever breaks or the two halves stop lining up, you know instantly, at a glance, that the bolt has started backing out before it's loose enough to matter. Do this on your exhaust clamps, highway peg mounts, mirror stems, and floorboard bolts. A paint marker costs about $4 and covers your whole bike. A cracked header from a clamp that worked loose unnoticed can run $200 to $600 to replace. Now things start to change. Hack number 13. Dielectric grease in every connector, not just the battery terminals. You go to start your bike after a rainy week and your headlights flickering, or your turn signal's acting possessed. You check the battery, it's fine. You check the bulb, it's fine. But here's what most owners never check. Harley wiring harnesses are full of small weatherproof connectors, and moisture still creeps into them over years, causing corrosion that creates exactly this kind of intermittent electrical gremlin. Here's the deal. Anytime you unplug any electrical connector on your bike, headlight, taillight, turn signals, handlebar switch pigtails, pack a small amount of dielectric grease into the connector before reseating it. It doesn't conduct electricity itself, it just seals out moisture and air so corrosion can't form on the metal pins. This is standard practice on aircraft and marine electronics for exactly this reason. A tube of dielectric grease costs about $6 and lasts for dozens of connectors. A dealership diagnosing an intermittent electrical fault, $90 to $200 in labor alone, and sometimes they never even find it. This next one changes how you take care of your seat. And then this happens. Hack number 12. Stop using saddle soap on your leather. Use mink oil instead. Your factory seat and saddlebags are starting to look dull, dry, and cracked at the seams. You reach for saddle soap because that's what everyone tells you to use on leather. But here's what most riders don't realize. Saddle soap was designed to clean heavily soiled work leather, and it actually strips natural oils out of finished motorcycle leather faster than the sun does. That's why so many 3- and 4-year-old Harley seats look like they're 10 years old. Here's the deal. Clean your seat and bags with a barely damp microfiber cloth first, then work in a small amount of pure mink oil or a leather conditioner in circular motions. Let it absorb for 20 minutes, then buff off the excess. Do this every couple months, especially before long storage. The oil replaces what sun and wind pull out, keeping the leather flexible instead of brittle. A bottle of mink oil costs about $9 and treats your seat and both bags for a full season. A replacement factory seat when the old one finally cracks through, $300 to $600. Speaking of storage, this next hack is the single biggest reason Harleys die over winter. Now watch what happens next. Hack number 11. Install a battery tender pigtail. Don't just disconnect the battery. Your Harley sits all winter and come spring, it cranks slow or doesn't crank at all. You assume the battery's just old. But here's what most owners get wrong. Simply disconnecting the battery doesn't stop it from slowly draining and sulfating internally, it just slows it down. A battery sitting discharged for months builds up lead sulfate crystals on the plates that permanently reduce its capacity, even if you never touched it. Here's the deal. Buy a battery tender pigtail harness. It wires permanently into your battery terminals and tucks under the seat. So all you do is plug in a smart charger through one exposed connector whenever the bike's parked for more than a couple weeks. The tender trickle charges and desulfates the battery automatically, keeping it at full health with zero effort. A pigtail harness and basic tender combo costs about $35 to $50 total, one time. A new Harley AGM battery when yours dies early, $150 to $220. And that's before the tow bill if it dies somewhere inconvenient. And this next one explains why.
Before we continue, everything in this video comes straight from Ride Longer, Spend Less, the complete motorcycle maintenance handbook. The full system, every step and every number we couldn't fit here. Scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy, and let's get back to it.
Hack number 10. Check your kickstand return spring before it becomes the reason your bike is on the ground. You park your bike, walk away, and hear that sickening thud behind you. The kickstand folded up while the bike was still resting on it and your Harley just went down in the parking lot. Riders call this the kickstand failure, and almost nobody checks for it until it happens to them. But here's what most owners miss. That kickstand is held down entirely by a single return spring. And once that spring fatigues or a spring hook wears thin, there's nothing stopping vibration from folding the stand up while you're parked or even rolling to a stop. Here's the deal. Once a year, grab the kickstand and check that it snaps back firmly with real tension when you lift your foot off it, not a weak, lazy return. If it feels soft or slow, replace the spring immediately. It's a 5-minute job with basic pliers. Keep a spare spring in your saddlebag toolkit. They're small and cheap. A replacement kickstand spring costs about $10. A dropped Harley, mirror, floorboard, tank dent, and sometimes a cracked primary cover can easily run $300 to $1,500 in cosmetic and mechanical repair. This next one solves a problem specific to hot pavement. And that leads us directly to the next example. Hack number 9. Use a kickstand puck on hot asphalt or soft ground. It's a scorching summer day. You park on blacktop, walk into the store, and come back to find your bike leaning at an angle that makes your stomach drop. The kickstand has sunk straight into the softened asphalt. But here's what changed everything for riders who deal with this constantly. A simple rubber or foam kickstand puck, essentially a wide flat pad, distributes the kickstand's weight over a much larger area so it cannot punch through soft ground or hot pavement. Here's the deal. Keep one in your saddlebag and drop it under the kickstand foot anytime you are parking on blacktop in the heat, gravel, or grass. Some riders make their own out of an old hockey puck with a shallow groove cut into the top so it does not slide out from under the stand. A kickstand puck costs about $12, or free if you already have a spare puck lying around. A bike that's tipped over from a sinking kickstand, same $300 to $1,500 range as Hack 10, for a problem that a 2-ounce piece of rubber completely prevents. Before we get to the hacks that actually shocked us the most, do me a favor and hit that like button. We did a lot of research pulling these together, and one like genuinely helps us keep making content like this. Done? Awesome. Now let's talk about the one product you should never spray on your belt drive. Next on the list is a name you might recognize. Hack number 8. Never use WD-40 or degreaser on your belt, soap and water only. Your final drive belt looks grimy, and you reach for whatever cleaner or WD-40 is sitting in the garage, figuring it'll cut through the grease like it does everywhere else on the bike. But here's what most riders don't realize until it's too late. Petroleum-based cleaners and lubricants break down the rubber compound and the internal fiber cords inside a belt drive, causing premature cracking, glazing, and in bad cases, tooth separation that can strand you on the highway. Here's the deal. Clean your belt with nothing stronger than a soft brush, mild soap, and water. Then let it air dry completely before riding. If there's a chalky white residue built up, that's just normal belt dressing and road grime, not something that needs solvents to remove. Save the degreasers for your chain drive friends. This costs you nothing beyond a bucket of soapy water you already have. A replacement primary drive belt, after solvent damage causes it to fail, costs $350 to $600, plus labor to remove the swing arm or transmission to fit the new one. Coming in next is something many people overlook. Hack number 7. Check belt deflection with a fish scale, not by feel. You press down on your belt with your thumb, it feels about right, and you ride off. But here is what most owners get wrong. Judging belt tension by feel is wildly inconsistent between riders, and both an over-tight and an over-loose belt cause real damage. Over-tight accelerates bearing wear on the transmission and wheel. Over-loose causes belt slap and eventually jumps teeth under hard acceleration. Here is the deal. Use a fish scale or a small luggage scale hooked under the belt at the midpoint between the two pulleys. Pull straight down with a measured, repeatable amount of force, and measure the actual deflection with a ruler against your specific model year's deflection chart in your service manual, since Softails, touring models, and Sportsters all spec slightly differently. Write the number down every time so you are tracking trend, not guessing fresh each time. A fish scale costs about $10 and turns a guess into a real measurement. A belt or pulley bearing replaced early because of chronic mistensioning, $400 to $900 in parts and labor. This next one explains that stumble at idle that has been driving you crazy. Now let us move to the next entry on the list. Hack number 6. Clean your petcock screen if your carbureted Harley sat with ethanol gas. Your carbureted Evo or twin cam sat for a couple months with a tank of regular pump gas, and now it stumbles at idle or won't idle at all without babying the throttle. You assume it's the carb itself, but here's what most owners overlook. Ethanol blended fuel absorbs moisture and breaks down into a varnish-like residue much faster than old-school gas ever did, and the very first place it clogs is the fine screen inside your fuel petcock, starving the carb of a steady fuel flow before it even gets to the float bowl. Here's the deal. Drain the tank, pull the petcock, and clean or replace that small screen before you touch the carburetor itself. Most idle stumbles on a stored carbureted Harley are solved right here, not inside the carb. If you're storing the bike more than a month, run a stabilizer through a full tank first. A petcock screen or stabilizer bottle costs about $10 to $15. A full carburetor rebuild that wasn't actually necessary, $200 to $450 in needless labor. Now we move to something completely different. Hack number 5. Wrap or heat shield any exhaust section that runs near your saddlebags or leg. You install aftermarket saddlebags or ride 2-up with a passenger, and after a summer of riding, you notice the bag liner near the pipe has a melted glaze, or your own calf has a permanent souvenir burn scar. But here's what most riders don't plan for. Factory heat shields are sized for factory pipes and factory bag placement. The moment you change either one, that heat management disappears and nobody warns you. Here's the deal. Wherever an exhaust section runs within a few inches of a bag, your leg, or plastic trim, wrap that section in header wrap or add a slip-on heat shield rated for exhaust temperatures. It's a 20-minute install and it stops both bluing on your chrome header from trapped heat and permanent damage to whatever's sitting next to it. Heat wrap or a shield kit costs about $25 to $40 per section. A melted saddlebag liner or a chrome header that's permanently blued and needs replacing $150 to $500 depending what got cooked. The next entry shows just how far this idea can go. Hack number 4. Slide, split loom, or old fuel line over any cable that rubs at full steering lock. You turn your handlebars all the way to one side in a parking lot and hear a faint scrape, or notice a worn spot on your clutch cable housing or a wiring harness where it crosses near the frame or gas tank. Most riders ignore it because nothing's failed yet, but here's what most owners miss. That scrape is the cable or harness slowly sawing through its own outer jacket every single time you turn full lock, and once it wears through to bare wire or cable core, you're looking at an electrical short or a snapped clutch cable, usually at the worst possible moment. Here's the deal. At full left and full right steering lock, physically check every cable and harness for any point where it contacts the frame, tank, or fork. Then slide a section of old fuel line, split loom tubing, or even a bit of old inner tube over that exact spot as a sacrificial layer. It takes 10 minutes per cable. Split loom or scrap fuel line costs next to nothing if you have it lying around, or about $5 for a length at any parts store. A snapped clutch cable on the road, or a shorted harness from chafe damage. Anywhere from $60 for a cable to several hundred for diagnosing and repairing a chafed wiring harness. And then there is this. Hack number 3. Check primary chain slack through the inspection cover, and don't confuse it with normal compensator noise. You hear a rattling clatter from the left side of the engine at idle and panic, assuming something's badly worn. But here's what a lot of newer owners don't know yet. A light rattle at idle from the primary side is often just the spring-cushioned compensating sprocket doing exactly what it's designed to do, absorbing engine pulses, and it's considered normal on many Harley engines. The primary chain itself is a separate thing entirely, and that's what actually needs checking. Here's the deal. Pull the small primary chain inspection cover, usually just 1 or 2 bolts, and check the chain's up and down slack directly by hand against your service manual spec, rather than trying to diagnose anything by sound alone. If the chain slack is within spec, that rattle you're hearing is very likely just the compensator and nothing to worry about. This 5-minute check costs you nothing but avoids either ignoring a real problem or panicking over a normal one. Needlessly pulling a primary cover for a full inspection based on sound alone, $150 to $300 in labor for a problem that didn't exist. But that is only part of the story. Hack number 2. Use a seafoam and idle screw combo to fix a stumble on carbureted models before you touch the jets. Your bike idles rough or stalls at stoplights, and the internet tells you to rejet your carburetor. But here's what most owners try way too early. A huge percentage of carbureted Harley idle problems come from varnished idle circuits and a slightly wrong idle mixture screw setting, not from wrong jetting, and rejetting won't fix either of those. Here's the deal. Run a can of seafoam or a quality carb cleaner through a tank of gas first to clean the small internal passages. Then, with the engine warm, adjust the idle mixture screw in small quarter-turn increments while listening for the smoothest, highest idle, rather than just turning it to a generic setting off the internet. Do this before spending money on jets or a carb rebuild kit. A can of seafoam and the time to adjust the screw costs about $10 and an afternoon. A full rejetting kit and labor that turns out to have been unnecessary, $150 to $350. And this final hack is the one every dealership skips during your first service, and it's the one that actually matters most. But the story does not end there. Hack number 1. Retorque your front axle, pinch bolts, and belt guard bolts after the first 500 miles. You just got your Harley back from its 500 or 1,000 mile break-in service. Everything feels tight and solid, so you assume you are covered for a good long while. But here is the part almost nobody tells new owners. Every fastener that was torqued onto a brand new bike settles slightly as gaskets compress, paint and finishes wear in under the bolt head, and components seat into their final position during that first real riding period. Meaning factory torque specs can actually loosen slightly, even without any vibration issue at all. Here is the deal. At exactly that first 500 mile mark, personally retorqued the front axle pinch bolts, rear axle nut, and belt guard bolts to the exact spec in your owner's manual using a real torque wrench. Do not just eyeball snug. This single check catches the single most common cause of a front wheel developing dangerous play in the first few thousand miles of ownership. A torque wrench, if you do not already own one, costs about $30 and you will use it for the life of the bike. A front axle that worked loose and damaged the fork lowers or wheel bearings before anyone caught it can easily cost $400 to $1,200. And in the worst case, it can lead to a genuinely dangerous ride home. That is the one hack that could quite literally save more than just money. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe and join us for the next one.